Hi, everybody. Guess what? I'm going to be talking to you about our wine tasting event on February 17th from 5:30 to 7:30. So, I am hearing here and there that the COVID cases are kind of, the Omicron cases, I have to say, they are kind of reaching the top. So, cross your fingers, say your prayers that they start coming down, because we would love to see you at this event. Okay, it is going to be shown, it is going to be only in person. So, Connie, you can come in from Australia, it's going to be a wonderful chance to get together to celebrate the 117th birthday of our club. That was the very first Rotary club that was founded anywhere in the world. So, we have a special prize for Golden Wheel members, and tell your friends, because this is the opportunity we have this year to share who we are in our club to people who don't know about us. And we have a really awesome story to tell. So, Sarah, the floor is back to you, and I really look forward to seeing you there, okay?
Okay, great. And so you can check today's gyrator if you're interested in registering for that event. So shortly, I will be turning it over to Eric and then over to our speaker. So we'll be taking questions at the end of the presentation today. For those of you here at the ULC, make sure you hold your questions to the end. And then for any of you on Zoom who have questions, you can type them into the chat box. So we want to honor our speaker's time by keeping our questions succinct and only one question per person. So right now, I'm going to turn the floor over to Eric, who will then introduce our speaker. Eric?
Thank you very much, Sarah. Good to see you, albeit over the Zoom feed here. Sorry I could not join you all in person. I was really looking forward to being there for today's speaker and today's presentation, but alas, the realities of COVID have once again reared their ugly head. But nevertheless, because we have done such a fantastic job with our hybrid meetings, we're still able to do this as if nothing has happened. So let's proceed. Rashod Johnson is both an engineer and an entrepreneur. Now, he's president and CEO of Ardmore Roderick, which is a full-service infrastructure engineering firm. The Roderick Group portion of that, he started in 2005, and he acquired Ardmore Associates in 2017, and then therefore formed it as Ardmore Roderick. And in that company, he employs over 250 people. And in fact, he's grown it into one of the top 5 Black-owned infrastructure and construction engineering firms in the U.S. I've seen him and his firm in the news a lot this year, including featured in Crane's Fast 50, which listed 856% growth over 5 years. If I can only do that with my transportation firm or a fraction of that, I'll be golden. So this is obviously an incredible achievement by any metric, but it's also not lost on me that as we celebrate Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday this week, in the context of what he fought for, it's even that much more significant, I think. And Mr. Johnson uses that knowledge that he gained from his own successes to help other firms across the country try to scale up. So he pays it forward by helping other small businesses, especially minority-run businesses, succeed. He also pays it forward through his roles as a board of trustee member for the Museum of Science and Industry, a member of the African American Chambers of Commerce of Central Florida and Illinois, Europe Chicago, YMCA, the Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity, the National Society of Black Engineers, which, by the way, I was hoping my friend and Debbie's good friend George Smith would have been on. He's from Purdue, and he's one of the co-founders of NSBE. So some point after I recover here, I will introduce you, Rashod, to George, if you don't already know him. And then, of course, that with that long list of charitable organizations, I'm hoping that we'll convince you to add Rotary to that list. Rashad earned his MBA from Notre Dame, and he has engineering degrees from University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign in Chicago. With that, Rashad, we are delighted to have you here, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. All right, so the presentation portion, okay, gotcha. Am I controlling that or someone else? Probably someone else. Okay. No problem at all. Well, thank you very much to Rotary One. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. As I looked throughout the website and saw all the previous speakers, I'm definitely honored to be here. Thank you, Eric, for that welcome introduction. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Marga. Greatly appreciate it. What's funny is Eric was talking about meeting the founder of NSBE. I've actually never met him. However, to this day, I know the mission of NSBE is to increase the number of culturally responsible Black engineers to excel academically, succeed professionally, and positively impact the community. That's what that organization meant to me in college and throughout. And so it's such a wonderfully succinct and beautiful mission statement that, dare I say, I've tried to live up to that mission every day. Next slide. Anyone who knows me know that I always start with a quote from Prince. Prince is one of my favorite artists. And so I always start with a quote from Prince. One of the quotes that he said years ago, sometimes it takes years for a person to become an overnight success. And I thought that was amazing, an amazing comment, especially when you start talking about the amount of growth that we've had over the last 5 to 7 years. I've had a lot of people comment when they meet me and they say, oh my God, you just came out of nowhere. Actually, I've been in business 17 years, but again, it takes years for a person to become an overnight success. Next slide. And so as I think about some of those years, I just wanted to give a slide on who is Rashad, right? Rashad starts with his family. That's my mother and father, Robert and Glenda Johnson. And my mother was an educator. My father worked for the post office. And I grew up on the south side of Chicago, Jackson Park, Highlands over there. And it's funny because I think a lot of people have sometimes misconceptions of what the south side of Chicago is. I born and raised on the south side of Chicago, and all I knew was my neighbors in my neighborhood. And they were all 5,000 square foot houses right off the lakefront. And so when you say south side of Chicago and they see Black man, they immediately make an assumption. That's just not been my experience. My experience is I grew up in a neighborhood with friends and family and people, just like the vast majority of others. And so I like to make sure that I highlight the other portions of the south side of Chicago. I'm a Christian. So Liberty Baptist Church is my father is a deacon, a Baptist deacon. Yeah, growing up Baptist deacon, dad, that's been fun. I'm a fan of Marvel, all things Marvel. So my daughter and I had the opportunity to go and see the Marvel exhibit at the Museum of Science and Industry. I'm pretty sure I nerded out more than she did. And I was telling her about all the things that I knew about comic books. And obviously she's the center of my life, my 12-year-old daughter, Layla. Education has always been a strong part of who I am. It's a strong part of who my parents all taught me to be. And I consider myself an extroverted introvert. I'm an engineer through and through. However, I often have to speak, have to engage, have to have employees, have to win business, et cetera. So it forces you outside of your comfort zone. However, I'm so used to it now that everyone's like, oh, he must be an introvert. How do you do it? No. I'm an extrovert. I'm very much an introvert, but I've learned how to get around it. So I consider myself an extroverted introvert. My career started in high school. I'm a proud graduate of St. Ignatius College Prep, where I was in school and really good at math and science. I believe actually that math and science, the love of math of science starts long before high school. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that later on. But started in high school. My professor, or my teacher at the time was Becker, and my physics teacher, and he said, hey, one of our alumni started a minority internship program. You should consider attending. I was like, well, what is it for? It's for engineering. I'm like, nah, I'm cool. I'm going to be a doctor or a lawyer or something, right? I'm spending all this money to go to high school. I'm going to have to make some money. And so he said, well, it's a little company. It's called Walsh Construction. Keep in mind, I'm talking about 30 years ago. It was still, quote unquote, a little company called Walsh Construction, right? At the time, I think they were not quite doing $1 billion. I think they're about $6 billion right now. And so I began working for Walsh Construction, and he convinced me by saying, it's paying $8 an hour. Now, I don't need to tell you what minimum wage was in 1992, but $8 an hour felt like I was a millionaire. I bought some Jordans, I bought my first car, I bought everything I needed because I was making $8 an hour. And then over time, so that was the whole impetus behind it. So that made me go into school to major in civil engineering. I chose the University of Illinois because at the time it was the #1 civil engineering program in the nation. My parents have always taught me that, people can take away a lot of things from you. They can never take away your education. Money, family, freedom even, things, they can never take away your education. Coming from my mother, who, by the way, was an EDD in education, she's a doctorate, so clearly that was kind of ingrained in me. So I went to University of Illinois, where I was the probably third, maybe fourth worst student in engineering. I partied like you would not believe. I did everything you weren't supposed to do. I got kicked out the first time was because I just was doing a little bit too much partying. The second time I was accused of plagiarism, and this is pre-internet. You know how hard it is to get caught with plagiarism pre-internet? But if they found out it wasn't really plagiarism, and so I ended up getting back in school. So 7 years later, I graduated with a bachelor's degree in civil engineering. And when I graduated, I could not get an engineering job anywhere because I had a 2.1 GPA. So what did I do? I went into sales. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in the next slide as well. But afterwards, I came back into engineering, did not feel as though I knew enough. And so I went back and got a master's degree in structural engineering. And then I went back to school again and got a master's in business because I started my own business at that point. Next slide. So starting in all of this, I again started with Walsh Construction. I always like to show the iceberg, right? It's the pure success iceberg. Okay, so this one's gonna be tricky, whoever's running this, because it's like, it comes in. So push the button or next slide. It's not really a next slide, it's just a little, there we go. Started at Walsh Construction, and that's where I got my passion for engineering. My passion for design, for construction. I realized that I was at the time, a student who really liked to build things, design things, watch it come to fruition. I'm the person that can look at something and see the full vision. And that was kind of developed while I was working in Walsh Construction. I still meet with Dan Walsh quarterly for breakfast. He always makes me pay for some reason. I'm like, dude, you can afford breakfast. But anyway, he's been one of my mentors for years, and I continue to have breakfast with him. My next job was applied industrial technologies. It was a sales job. Why? Because I had a 2.1 GPA and I could not get into a real engineering job because my grades weren't good enough. And so I stumbled into sales. And what's interesting about that is, as an engineering student, I would have never guessed how wonderful a sales job would be. I hated it while I was in it. But what did it teach me? It taught me rejection. It taught me how to speak to various types of people. It taught me how to talk to a president of a company all the way down to a janitor in a company, equally as comfortable. And those are things that I think engineering students specifically, that whole extroverted introvert, could really use. I am a fan of a sales job, eat what you kill. Those were probably two of the strangest 2 years of my life because I was forced outside of my comfort zone. And those types of skills help me today significantly more than even my engineering degrees. Next button. After which I decided to get back into engineering, and I got to Mason Contractors Association of America. I was the chief engineer there, and I was writing building codes. I was the guy that barely got out of civil engineering, and now I'm writing building codes. So I said, okay, this can't happen. So I went back to school, got a master's degree in structural engineering because I didn't want to be the dumbest person in the room. However, what it did was it surrounded me with 800 contractors from across the country. Contractors who, some of them were family-owned businesses, some of them were entrepreneurs purely, where they started their own businesses. But either way, they were entrepreneurs running their own businesses. And that got in me the spirit of entrepreneurship, of what I really felt like I could do. Next slide. After which I decided to start the Roderick Group. The Roderick Group, everyone says, where's Roderick come from? I'm Rashod Roderick Johnson. It's my middle name. So I started the Roderick Group in 2005, where that taught me how to build a team. I started it by myself, attic, south side of Chicago, one-man shop, and decided, how do I grow this team? How do I win work? How do I convince people to come and work for me in my attic, right? You talk about a sales job. And I had to really learn how to grow and build a team. Next slide. While doing that, I ended up purchasing and made my first acquisition in 2008 of a company called Material Service Testing. While I was running the Roderick Group, had Material Service Testing, I purchased it and ran both firms simultaneously. And what that taught me was how to leverage the power of other people's money, right? How do you buy a firm? Most people are not going to go in their own pockets and buy a firm. So you end up leveraging other people's money while you do that. But then also it taught me how to work with a partner. For the first time in my life, I was not 100% owner. I had a business partner, and how the dynamics of business partnerships work. Next slide. After that, I actually made the acquisition of Ardmore Associates. And that, next slide, is how Ardmore Roderick actually came to play. So we were the Roderick Group. We purchased Ardmore Associates. We put them together, and it was Ardmore Roderick. And what that taught me was not only acquisition at the high level, but also how to continuously learn. I was, at the time, in my early 40s, made a huge acquisition. I inherited a lot of vice presidents and engineers and people who had 10, 20, 30 years more experience than I did, and yet now I'm the leader. And it taught me to continue to learn. I learn every day from the people who work for me, from people who are my clients, people who are my colleagues, continuously learning. Next slide. So once we became Ardmore Roderick, well, this is just a little bit of an overview of how we got there. So Ardmore and Associates started in 2003. Ardmore, the Roderick Group started in 2005. And then we just made a series of acquisitions and partnerships. We purchased a company called CPS down in Florida. We established a partnership with Sargent & Lundy. We created our first construction group a couple of years ago, all with the vision of having National 2025. What is that vision? In 2019, we sat down with our strategic planning committee, which was everyone from people who had just graduated from school to people who had been out of school 25 years, old, young, black, white, man, woman, put everybody in a room, 20 cross-section of the company. And I asked one simple question. Who are the firms that recruited you out of college? The people who had just graduated school and the people who had graduated 30 years ago all named some iteration of the same 5 firms, right? They might have been bought and purchased or consolidated at some point, but it was the same 5 firms. And I thought to myself, when was the last time there was a new player in the national market in infrastructure and engineering? Like, when was the last time there was a national firm created, not just bought and sold, et cetera? And no one could think of one. So in that moment, we decided we were going to be the next national infrastructure firm. And hence our vision of National 2025. Next slide. And so Ardmore Roderick today, we do design, infrastructure, engineering, construction. We do design, we do construction, design, build, program management, utilities, survey. We pretty much do it all. Years ago, when I first got started, I remember meeting with a large engineering firm, and they said, "What's your specialty?" And I said, "Engineering." They said, No. What's your specialty inside of engineering? Engineering. Well, you have to choose a specialty. And I said to myself, why do I have to choose a specialty? You do it all. In fact, all of you all do it all. And yet for the smaller up and coming, especially minority firms, they expected you to specialize. And I just refused to specialize. I'm going to do it all. And so we continued to grow and move and do it all. So when we purchased Ardmore, the Rotary Group did primarily design. Ardmore Associates did primarily construction management. So when we put it together, now we do design and construction. We're a full service infrastructure firm. Next slide. So some of our key projects that I always like to tout, we are program managers, I would say first. But a good program manager understands design, understands construction, and understands everywhere in between. So some of the very large programs that we're either priming as partners or priming solo or even as sub-consultants are Metro. So all of the Metro work that's happening, the $8.5 billion O'Hare Airport expansion, we are the prime that's running the entire project as a partner on the prime team. CTA, the $2.3 billion Red Purple modernization. We are the prime running that program in partnership as well. Next slide. And then outside of Chicago, we're actually helping to build the South Terminal at Orlando Airport. We are Lockheed Martin, one of Lockheed Martin's largest design builders. They don't even know we're a minority firm. They just know that we do good work. And so we've done quite well there. And then we are the program manager, prime, at the Obama Presidential Center, which actually comes full circle. So I don't know if you remember that first slide, in the corner in the box up there, what did it say? It said Jackson Park. And Obama Presidential Center is in Jackson Park. So for me, it's a wonderful full circle moment where a South Side kid born and raised is now the head of the project that's, I believe, is going to really transform that area of Chicago in Jackson Park. So that was a proud moment for me. I'm also the dad that I drive around, I'll stop in the middle of the street and get out the car. I say to my daughter, Daddy built that. Daddy designed that. Daddy did this. And so when the Obama Presidential Center is there, I'm going to be saying that to my grandchildren as well. Daddy did that. Granddad did that. Or Pawpaw, whatever they're going to call me at that point. I don't know. Next slide. And so everyone always likes to ask, how did you do it? How'd you do it? What's the plan? What's the roadmap? And so I'm just going to give 3 very quick ideas that I have on how to have a roadmap for success. Next slide. The first is really understanding your purpose. And that's actually more difficult than you would think, because my purpose over the last 10 years have changed 4 times, easy, and continues to evolve to this day. In 2020, right after COVID hit, I wasn't feeling well. I had some chest pains. I went to my doctor and found out that I was in the middle of a 3-day heart attack at 43 years old. So he rushed me to the emergency room. 2 days later, I had emergency heart surgery. And on the way out, the heart surgeon said, "You're very lucky." So why am I very lucky? He said, because you had 98% blockage in the LAD, and most people don't survive this. And it threw me into a tizzy. Why did I survive this? What's different about me that survived this? So I went on this whole journey, dare I say, about why did I survive this? It wasn't to be the biggest engineering firm in the world. It wasn't to be the best or the biggest or whatever. And it really brought me back to understanding what my purpose is. First and foremost, I'm a family man. And so my purpose first was to be a great father to my child. And then bigger than that, I think that there's a perception of African-American businesses in America. There's a perception that I believe is a false narrative. And so I started to really think about, how do I change that? And what is my role in changing that? And so I really believe that my purpose is to change the perception of how African-American businesses are viewed in America. They're not all small firms. They don't all need extra financial help. They don't all have to have a lower quality. They very well can grow to scale and compete with little to no hindrances that are often put on African-American firms and other minority firms unfairly. And so I really felt like that's part of it. But the second part of that is, how do I show African-American kids that you can come from the South Side of Chicago and still run a national firm? It can be done. If you catch me on the weekends, I have on a hoodie I got on some jeans. I'm probably listening to some ridiculously ratchet rap music, really loud in my car. Well, that's who I am. And I like to make sure when I speak to children that I let them know that you can be exactly who you are and still be a successful entrepreneur and be a national CEO of a national infrastructure firm. And so I started to develop that purpose. And more than that, that purpose develops a vision. It develops a vision for who you want the world to see you as, but then also what you should do with your firm and with the responsibility of your people. I'm still an engineer, and so I still believe in risk and reward, but you have to measure this risk. All engineers understand calculated risk. We calculate risk all the time. I probably take a little bit more of a jump than some other of my engineering friends, but you have to be able to measure that risk and leap. If COVID taught us nothing else, it taught us that change is inevitable, and how we react to that change is going to be the difference between success and not. And lastly, to remove self-imposed limitations. When I first started a company, I said to myself, you know what, if I can do 10 million a year, that'd be awesome. And I got to 10 million. You know, if I could do 25 million a year, that'd be awesome. Now it's, you know, if I could figure out how to get $1 billion firm, then it'd be awesome. I would have never thought to even have $1 billion in my repertoire when I started this firm. But I believe that the higher you get, the more you can see. And so as we continue to grow this firm, I'm committed to growing it significantly more. Next slide. I'm a firm believer in taking care of people. Anyone that works for us will tell you that we probably pay a little bit more than market. We take care of our people. We have a ridiculously wonderful benefits package. So I consider our firm to be employee-centric and client-focused. I believe in getting the right people on the bus, but not just the right people. You have to make sure they're in the right seats. I've often been told by my father, never be afraid to hire people smarter than you. While I wouldn't say I'm the dumbest person in a firm, I'm certainly not the smartest, but I could put it all together in a really good way. I make sure that you stay connected. I believe that if a company takes care of their employees, the employees will take care of those clients. And so I don't have 150 clients. I have 250 clients that are my employees, and they take care of our clients because I know that treating them well and treating them right are going to translate into wonderful taking care of our clients. Next slide. Last is partnership. Internal partners, advisors, always have advisors and mentors. I say all the time, I have mentors on mentors. Some people don't even know they're mentors. Some people, it's like, well, Rashad, it's always inviting me to lunch. Every 6 months, I sit and go to lunch with somebody. I don't call them and say, hey, will you be my mentor? I invite them to lunch. And then I just pick their brain for an hour and a half. And then I go, they don't even realize they're my mentors, right? So I say always have advisors and mentors, up and down. And I say that to say I've learned more from people who work for me than I have ever from other people. I tell you, as strange as it may sound, I consider my daughter, who's 12 years old, one of my mentors, because she teaches me things that other people can't possibly teach me. And so when you think about what a mentor really is and what it means to you, it also means that you have a responsibility to then pass that on. Oftentimes you hear people say, to whom much is given, much is expected. It doesn't say expected in the Bible, it actually says required. So you have a requirement to give back. Those external partners, obviously clients, et cetera, you have to have partnerships, but then community partners. As a Black man in America, as a Black man in Chicago, there are unspoken responsibilities. Unspoken responsibilities that when I walk into a room and I'm the only African American there, good, bad, or indifferent, everybody's judging me and Black people by what I say and what I do. And so I have this unwritten expectation. So I wear the right clothes, I say the right things, I don't do anything that's going to embarrass, because we all seem to be judged by this larger standard. So I recognize this larger standard and I embrace it. And so when I go and again, talk to students, et cetera, I remind them, I say, hey, everyone is watching. I just had an executive team call a couple of weeks ago, and I reminded my executive team, everyone is watching. Everyone in the company, everyone out of the company, everyone is watching. And so knowing that, you have to make sure that you compose yourself properly. And last but not least, I'll say stay open. I have been wide open on opportunities. I listen, I learn. Sometimes I might say, it's not a good thing. Other times I might say, hey, let's go and pursue it. But I stay open. And when you stay open to possibilities and opportunities, vetting them properly, the sky is nothing but the limit. I believe this is the last slide, next slide. And at this point, I will happily open it up for any questions.
Okay, I think that we can give a round of applause because that was amazing. Thank you very much. So we'll start with questions in the room first. Anyone with a question? We've got a roaming microphone here. Questions? Oh my gosh, you guys are like my students. No questions. Okay, Marshall.
So coming from the south side of Chicago, what do you view as the largest challenge to capture the imaginations of young minority students in the city, all over the city, to have the same kind of success you do in STEM?
You know, one of the things that I alluded to it earlier, I think that far too often we start with the whole STEM process in high school. I'm a firm believer that it's too late in high school. If you don't walk into freshman year in high school with a healthy love for math and science, you are not going to develop it with all of the other competing interests that happen at 14, at 13. You have to establish and build this love for math and science at 5, at 6, at 8, so that when you get to high school, it's not foreign, it's not scary, it's not afraid. I once had a very strongly worded conversation with someone where my daughter had asked for help on homework, and she told her, I'm not good in math, talk to your dad. And that angered me. I said, no, because now she's looking at you as a mentor, as a role model, thinking, if you not have to be good in math, I don't have to be good in math either, because you're clearly successful. I want to be like you. I said, simply say, you know what, daddy's better in math than me. But I think far too often, especially in the African-American community, we have created this fear of math and science because it's too hard. It's not too hard. Math and science is in everything we do. My 12-year-old just recently, she says, this algebra stuff is hard for me. I just don't understand. I don't get X's and Y's and 1s and 2s. So I said, algebra is in everything you do. No, it's not. Everything you do. I said, okay, let's say that we have to be at school at 8:25. We live exactly 3 miles away from school, but in traffic, it takes us about 15 minutes. What time do you need to leave the house in order to be at school on time? That's an algebraic formula. Whether or not you think about it or not, it's an algebraic formula. I got $25. I want to buy these 4 things at the grocery store, including tax. How many of these things can I buy in order to that's an algebraic formula. Now, we don't think about it in that manner because we don't teach our children math in that way. But all of that is high level, high order math that we don't think about, because when you break it all down, it's simply addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. And so once we start to teach our children at young ages, I think you'll get rid of this fear. And once you get rid of the fear, then we'll be able to get more and more minority students involved in STEM.
Other questions in the room?
Excellent presentation. Are you an only child?
No, I have a younger sister who is afraid of math and science. Hurts my heart.
What does your sister do?
She's an attorney. So she reads, I say all the time, I don't read like the rest of people, right? I can count really well, but she's an attorney and works for the state. Yeah. So she's 8 years younger than me, which is interesting because to this day, I'll tell you that my little sister, her nickname to my daughter, by the way, she calls her Auntie Raven. I call her baby Auntie Raven because she's still my baby sister. So I still call her that. But she's one of my best friends, yeah, to this day. Lives 3 blocks away from me, by the way.
Do we have time still for questions or? Okay. So we'll move to some questions on Zoom here. You've gotten a lot of nice accolades in the chat box.
Excellent.
I've seen them pop up, so
Okay.
I'm sorry that you weren't able to see them. Let's see. So I see 2 here at the bottom. So first, was there a specific failure you experienced that helped you get to where you are? And how did you respond to the failure?
Was there a specific failure? No. Were there several? Absolutely. Whether or not it was school or in business, I failed a lot. And I think I believe the key to success is not how, if you fail, it's how you deal with the failure. You will fail. If you're an entrepreneur, you will fail, and that's okay. How you deal with that and how you use that as motivation to persevere, I believe, is one of the equations, one of the variables to success. So I can't necessarily point to one specifically, but I can tell you that I've had many, both personally and professionally.
Okay, we'll do one more here from Zoom.
Pamela.
Do you and your current employees mentor up and perhaps do you and your current employees mentor up into becoming engineering students? I'm not sure. If so, what is the process for students to become mentees? It's this one here.
Gotcha.
Up and coming, that's what it means.
Gotcha.
Got it.
Yes. So I believe mentorship covers various facets. We have external to the company. We've just recently started a partnership with a grade school. Once again, I believe high school is too late, so putting my money where the mouth is. We're partnering with a school in Inglewood to help that school develop math and science at a better scale. I believe, again, that starting earlier is better. Now, while my goal is to grow that, we don't necessarily have a specific plan and purpose just yet, as much as exposing people. 60% of my firm is diverse. And so I want all different types of facets of people, age, race, to go into this school and show them that engineering doesn't look one way. It doesn't look two ways or three ways. It looks like everything and everyone. And so we're partnering with that school internally. We've started a mentor protege program internally with the company with younger engineers and some of our executives. We also have a mentor protege program with other small firms. So last year, 2 years ago, right before COVID, we brought in small, just getting started startup engineering firms in our field and had interviews and interviewed a lot of firms and picked two that we were then going to take, help them get the resources, understand marketing, understand the industry a little bit better, and help to grow them. Last year alone, one of those firms, we ended up getting them over $4 million of work just last year alone, as we kind of helped to mentor them. And then we also partner with my alma mater, St. Ignatius, where we give students, in particular African-American male students, the opportunity to meet with me and meet with our team, et cetera. And then lastly, I'd say our internship program. Our internship program, if you look at it, is probably as diverse as it gets. And the whole goal there is to expose diverse students to the opportunity to work for a highly functioning, excellent engineering firm. So we do it in multiple ways. Specifically to that question, I have my contact information. You're welcome to contact, and I'll put you in touch with the people in the company if you have someone specifically that you're interested in. Question.
One question.
What's next?
What's next? I am ambitious to a fault. And once again, one of our things was National 2025. So we are committed to becoming a national infrastructure firm by 2025. Now, when I said that in 2019, I promise you I didn't think we'd be in a worldwide pandemic. I did not think that it would last for 2 years. But believe it or not, it's not hindered us at all. We've actually continued to grow quite a bit. And so what's next is National 2025. And in 2025, I'm sure it'll be something significantly bigger than that. Thank you very much for your time and the opportunity to speak.
Well, thank you very much for sharing your story with us and your successes and your failures, because those failures are important as well. And so as a recognition of your presentation to us, we have this certificate, which you can proudly hang on your wall.
Excellent, thank you.
Right next to your Rotary pin, because you'll be joining us very soon, from what I understand. I think I heard that in your presentation somewhere. But thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so with that, we are going to move along into our program now. And we have another little recognition to do. Marshall, do you realize that you're getting recognized today? Surprise! So Marshall Schmidt is being recognized today with a very high honor and some bling here as well. Marshall has achieved the Paul Harris +8. So Marshall, if you'd like to come up here and receive your pin, it's very, very nice, which all of us someday can aspire to this. Round of applause for Marshall.
Thank you very much.
Good, thank you. And then I'd like to recognize others that we see here on our slide as well. The Paul Harris +1 would be Matthias Amberg and Barbara Brunke. And Paul Harris +2, Eugene Sullivan. Thank you very much for your generosity. And congratulations once again. I'm going to turn it over to Marga, who's going to discuss some information from our International Service Committee. Marga?
Yes. Well, okay, I am on mute. No. Okay. Well, as you see in the slide, we have donated a very sophisticated equipment called a FibroScan in English, to the Hospital San Roque in the city of Cordoba in Argentina. This looks like a small piece of equipment, but it is highly sophisticated. It allows to detect anomalies in the liver without an invasive procedure. The impact on this equipment is huge. There are many countries where Rotary has a program of fighting hepatitis. And especially in Latin America, clubs and districts are extremely active on this issue. So this is, one equipment we participated in a grant initiated by the Rotary Club of Buenos Aires. Cerro de las Rosas in Cordoba. That the Buenos Aires is another grant. And, people be proud of what we're doing because this is good work. And in the room where this equipment is going to be used, there is a plaque that the Rotary Club has put on the wall where all the clubs that participated in this grant are recognized. So congrats, International Services Committee, for the good work on this. Go ahead, back to you, Sarah.
Great, thank you for sharing that information with us, Marga. So we're gonna move on to the introduction of guests. Do we have any visiting Rotarians here at the Union League Club? Any visiting Rotarians? Seeing none. Any guests of Rotary who are here today? Okay, you guys are making my job pretty easy. Have we already introduced the guests on Zoom? Have you guys introduced yourselves to each other? Should we do a who's come from the farthest? Do we have anyone on Zoom here who is an international Rotarian visiting us today? I know you're out there because I can see your participant name. Anyone want to speak? Now you're making my job hard. Well, it looks like we have several guests with us online from Zoom. So of course, we always welcome individuals to come from other Rotary clubs, from outside of Rotary as well, to get to know us a little bit. And of course, those of us here, welcome to bring guests as well. So, since we don't have any guests who are willing to speak at this moment, we will move on to our announcements. We're going to start with announcements from Job 1. So I'm many hats today, so I'm filling in for Alita as well. Applications are now open for students who are looking to join the Job 1 Internship Program. As the signature program for Rotary 1, Job 1 prepares City of Chicago High School 11th grade and graduating seniors who are 16 and over for the workplace by providing job readiness training, as well as substantive paid summer internship opportunities with local businesses and not-for-profits in Chicago. So I believe the links for students to apply is going to be dropped in the chat box. And then we're also really looking for employers. So if anyone knows of someone, or perhaps is in my eye line right now that might maybe like to have a Job One intern over the summer, that link is also being dropped in the chat box as well. So speaking of our International Service Committee and our Job One Committee, our Rotary One committees continue to meet virtually. So meeting dates are on the calendar. You can find them online. So we have a membership committee, we have a community service committee, which I'm the co-chair of with Wes Westerfield. And then we heard Marga talk about the International Service Committee. And then we also have our PR and marketing committee as well. So if you're interested in joining a committee, make sure you look for those dates and links online. So let's talk about what's coming up. So on January 25th, this particular meeting is only over Zoom. So no Union League Club for us that day. So on that day, we'll have LaFonda Sutton-Burke, who is the Director of Field Operations in Chicago of the U.S. Customs and Border Protection. So again, reminder, in order to attend that meeting, you will need to register so you can get that Zoom link. If you come to the Union League Club, great, but we won't be here. On February 1st, that is a 5:30 meeting. Our first Tuesdays are always evening meetings. That is a Rotary after work. And on that day, we will be introducing our latest round of CPS Opportunity Grant recipients. So to your point earlier about getting young individuals involved in STEAM, we have at least 2 grant winners from CPS this round who, starting at kindergarten, are introducing a STEAM program. And then the other grant for STEAM is a little bit older. But on February 1st, those teachers are going to come and talk about the projects that they'll be doing with their grant money. And then also, Connor will be introducing Rotary Connect, which is a new initiative from Rotary International. And then finally, on February 8th, that is a hybrid meeting. So we'll be back here in the Union League Club, as well as for those of you on Zoom as well. That'll be Illinois State Treasurer Michael, I don't know how to say that name. I didn't prep this. Frericks, to practice before he arrives. Don't anybody say that I didn't know how to say his name. Frericks, yes? Okay. That is a hybrid meeting. So are there any other announcements in the room? Perhaps any guests that would like to speak up now who didn't speak up the first time? We do have a guest, don't we? Yes, okay.
So we have 2 guests at our table who are both engineers, and I'll let them tell us about themselves.
Thank you for having me. I'm Harvind Singh, President and CEO of Singh & Associates, and sort of wanted to surprise Rashad, so that's how you all got me here. So good choice in speakers, and we're based out of Chicago.
Good, welcome, thank you.
And she's interested in looking at Rotary membership, so we have to
Perfect.
get her an application.
Laura.
So Brian Goldman, I'm with Greeley and Hansen. We're a water and wastewater firm here in the city of Chicago for the last 108 years. Very involved with infrastructure. So I oversee our Chicago operations, and very interested in the speaker today since we work in the same space. And a good friend of Eric Hempel, him and I are both on the board for the Chicago Engineers Foundation. So very involved with whatever we can do to promote engineering in the city of Chicago.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, any other announcements, Marga?
Let me see. Okay, yes, well, just a reminder, you have the invitation for the wine tasting in the gyrator today. Forward it to your friends because this is going to be a fun thing to come to. And as I said earlier, we would like to show Rotary to those friends who haven't heard from us, even though we've been around, some of us, no, not all of us, for over 100 years. So just, start sending that invite to your friends. Okay, thank you, Sarah.
Yes, I also heard there were empanadas. I don't know if you mentioned that or not, but that could be a big draw too, to have those empanadas. So we have some time here at the end. So I'm going to turn it over to our shy people on Zoom, because I know that we have some guests who would like to introduce themselves. Anyone like to unmute on Zoom?
Yes, can you hear me?
Hi, yes, hello, welcome.
Hello, hi. This is midnight here in India. I'm the president of Rotary Club of Koilon. It's a 74-year-old club. This is District 3211, Club 15939. It was a great speech today, great evening. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for being here, especially at midnight. That is past my bedtime. Anyone else on Zoom who would like to say hello?
I would like to say hello.
Great.
My name is Kathy Zimmerman, and my son Carl was a member of your club. And today's program I thought Carl would have loved being an entrepreneur himself, but I certainly think that Job One should have interns placed at our speaker's company. It'd be a perfect match.
Absolutely. Yes, thank you. And welcome and hello to you as well. And yes, I second and third that, again, because you're in my eye line. So we have your contact information. Anyone else who would like to speak up on Zoom?
Sarah. I would like to speak up in the room.
Laura would like to speak up in the room.
Yes, because I wanted to introduce Ed. I hope your name is as logical as it's spelled, Keckenmaster. So Ed is a prospective member visiting us today. And if you would tell everybody a little about yourself.
Yep. Well, thanks for having me today. And I was definitely drawn to this meeting specifically today for the speaker. So thanks for coming. My name's Ed Keckenmaster, and I work in the asset management division of a company called Principal Financial Group, and moved back to Chicago. Grew up in Libertyville, Illinois, but moved back to Chicago about a year and a half ago.
Great. Welcome. Thank you for being here. We have wonderful, wonderful speakers. So please come again. So with that, it is time to bring our meeting to a close. And I actually forgot to ask him this ahead of time, but I am going to bring my husband, Gunnar, up here to help us recite the four-way test. I was supposed to ask ahead of time and I forgot. So welcome. Yes. Okay, so if I could have everyone please rise. We will be closing the meeting here by doing what we do, the four-way test, and Gunnar is going to lead us today.
Hello, everyone. So is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendship? Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Great. Thank you very much for doing that on such short notice. And with that, I close the meeting. Thank you very much for your attendance in the room and on Zoom, and I look forward to seeing you again.